I tried to bribe Zeytin occasionally, to get her to wake up or something so we could begin production, but she didn't have it.
Congratulations on this documentary. It's called Stray. What a powerful documentary. Basically, you follow street dogs in Turkey because they're not allowed to put down dogs there. So you basically follow them around. So it's basically like a nature dog, but in a civilization.
Yeah,
It
totally.
was, what kind of camera did you use? Because you're up close and personal. On nature dogs, you use long lenses, right? So not to interrupt with the wildlife. So how did you approach it?
Yeah, I mean, because these are dogs who are fully integrated into the urban fabric and really well socialized, it was really easy to get really close to them. And especially Zeytin, who was the star of the film,
Mhm.
she had this rare ability where she wouldn't interact with the camera that much, and she allowed
Wow.
me to really follow her. And what we used was we used two cameras that we got from grants: this Canon C300 and then the Arri Alexa Amira, which is a film that's often used in fiction film sets. It's that level of visual quality, and then also vintage Cook lenses. And the reason why we used such elaborate camera setups was because we really wanted to imbue these dogs with a sense of beauty and personhood, as conveyed by the gravity and high level of cinematography, to help people sort of really care about a participant or a protagonist who doesn't speak, and the film doesn't speak for the protagonist either. So it was important to sort of seduce people in visually.
So, I mean, you're low to the ground, like the dog. So what did you use? Did you
Yeah.
have, was it handheld or did you have like a crane? Or not a crane, you
Yeah,
can't carry a crane around.
yeah, we figured out a rig where it's this thing called an easy rig. It's like a vest that, and then it allows you to hang the camera off of a piece of string that hangs from your sort of above your head. And then we
Mm.
had a stabilizer gimbal, a Ronin DJI, and then a camera. And basically I would just crouch low the whole time, and in the film you can see me like breaking out into runs when I couldn't keep up with them, or when the dog's mind was just hearing sounds that I couldn't hear, or smelling things that I couldn't hear. They would take off. So it was the film was very much about the encounter of a human trying to keep up with dogs. I think.
And it's so harrowing for them because they're crossing highways and you're like gasping, like, no, they're gonna get killed. I mean, it's not an easy life. I mean, poor things, they're strays. It's not an easy life, but just watching it from their perspective, it's just so tragic.
I mean, they're really smart. Like in those
Really.
scenes where I'm dashing, fully trusted that Zeytin knew kind of what she was doing,
Mm.
because they wouldn't have survived this long had it not been for their navigational skills. And oftentimes I would get completely lost and lose my bearings within the city of Istanbul, but I would always trust that Zeytin and the other dogs would be able to bring me back to wherever I needed to go, because their sense of place was so strong, because this was their home that they were free to live life on their own terms in.
And it's such a powerful contrast. You have humans, you have these, I think they were young people living on the streets. So they're basically like the strays living on the streets. And it's a powerful contrast showing how the dogs are more accepted on the streets than these kids. And they're, I don't know if you call them drug addicts, glue, they sniff glue to get high.
Yeah, I mean, well, so these young men, they happen to be from Aleppo, Syria, and they're taking refuge in Turkey as refugees. And I've talked to people, homelessness advocates, about why people become addicted to drugs like sniffing glue, and it's because it's a rational choice in a way. Like
Mm.
the glue suppresses your appetite and makes you feel warm, and oftentimes those young men would give up their meals to feed to the dogs, because they had such a sense of belonging whenever they reunited with those dogs. And if they didn't have those dogs being part of their pack, I think they would feel much more adrift. And I actually see, from what I saw when I was in Turkey, I feel a lot of warmth in even how those young men are treated. Even when the security guards are kicking them out, they're still touching them, patting them
Yeah,
on the back and trying to advise them not to do glue. And people are giving them advice like, go back to Syria and get an education, which of course is like really misguided,
ridiculous.
but
Yeah.
still the intention is there. So I see a lot of parallels in this embrace of the other.
Yeah, you really see that. And you don't see the mistreatment of the dogs because they're part of society, like you would see here, like in Mexico, for instance, in Tijuana, when I would go, but you see a lot of people feeding them. because he doesn't look
Yeah,
starved or anything. So obviously people are feeding
not at
them.
all. For sure. I tried to bribe Zeytin occasionally, to get her to wake up or something so we could begin production, but she didn't have it because she was able to find such a rich diet throughout the city from people feeding her or just what she found, in hidden crevices. And
Mhm.
also during the pandemic, I was very worried about what was happening to all the stray animals that relied on people to feed them. And the government stepped up and set out kibble every day during those lockdowns, and people would also volunteer. So
Oh.
I've been very heartened, and it's no surprise to me based on what I witnessed when I was in Turkey, because people really love their animals there.
And what's behind the no-kill shelters? What's behind it as far as their thoughts? Is it part of like a spiritual thing that dogs they see
Yeah,
dogs that as a
yeah.
spiritual thing?
So there's this law that protesters and people fought for in 2004 that passed. It's really radical. You're not allowed to kill or euthanize any stray dogs or even hold them in captivity. And that was really, I think, a civilizational kind of fight for dogs to roam freely, because it was in the 1900s and throughout the last century when Turkey was trying to modernize and westernize and conform to Western ideals of what a quote unquote civilized city is like, which is to
Mhm.
be emptied of all other species, unfortunately. And people weren't having it. People loved their stray animals. And so they protested whenever the government tried to kill all the dogs, which we do in the United
Yeah.
States every year. But people had the cultural mindset to care or to respect other life forms in a way that I hope when people see this film, it makes them question their own relationship with non-human life and what a city can look like a truly
Well,
diverse one.
well, definitely that is the message, and we will do our best to get more eyeballs on this one because it's something you can't miss.
Thank you so much, Lupe.